What's up, everybody? This is Kurt Dimer, and you're watching Aftershocks TV. Peace and love.
Yeah, so the news for me right now, I mean, the big thing that I'm watching, and a lot of people is the Sammy Hagar tour, which he just announced, 2 weeks ago or so when he was on Stern Show and whatever. But, when you got Joe Satriani on the stage, and you got Sammy Hagar on the stage, and you got, Jason Bottom on the stage, and you got Michael Anthony on the stage, that's got my attention. But not only that is that, obviously he's playing all the Van Hagar. And unusually enough, if you look at that right there, special guest Loverboy. Can someone fucking please explain that to me? Like, seriously, I'm sorry. What
yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice, but I
don't hate Loverboy, but come on, he could have done so much better than that. I mean,
I agree.
Listen, I'm not a big fan, so I can't really talk from a point of education with the band. But how many seats are they going to? They're playing sheds, 15, 20,000 seaters, whatever. How many people are Loverboy going to bring to the stage? I don't know, right? I got nothing. But what's interesting about that is that you never really see this on a tour poster. He's almost giving you the set list at the bottom of the tour poster.
Yep. I like that. I like that.
So he's making sure. Listen, guys, these are the deep cuts. Obviously it's best of best of all worlds, which is very good play on words. And he does have Running with the Devil down there, I think. So he's obviously kind of alluding that he's going to play a couple of DLR songs, but. I think it's it's kind of coming on the back of the Collections release, which they had just a couple of weeks ago. So there's an appetite for this music because it hasn't been played in so long. And Matt, when you go back and look at those YouTube clips, or obviously the live Van Halen DVD and CD that was recorded many years ago, that fucking band right there, obviously with Eddie and with Alex, were on fire live, and I think we're going to get a piece of that.
Yeah, and it's great you just brought up about. Yeah, you're right. This is the first time I've ever seen a flyer announcing, the set list, or for at least most of it. And what's even great, it's not even just the Sammy Hagar classics, whether his solo stuff for Van Halen. You've even got some Montrose City. You got Rock Candy in there.
That's right.
That's right. So I mean, this, and I like this because I don't know. I'm the type of guy I like to kind of. I know everyone has their, everyone's different opinion with that. I do like to kind of know what they're going to play, because I don't want to go there and know, all right, they didn't play this or didn't play that. I kind of like to know it. Like it says here, and more. So this is just obviously a good sample, a good thick sample of what they're going to play. And yeah, I'm excited to see this as well, Ben. They're playing over here as well, pretty close to me, but in August. So I'm excited, man. Obviously there was the whole thing with this about David Lee Roth, right? Who kind of, I think just, I mean, I'm kind of over the whole David Lee Roth and Hagar kind of messing with each other. It's kind of old by now. It's just like, I mean, he kind of called Sammy's bluff a bit about, yeah, come on out, David. And then Dave's like, let's do it. He's like, no, I'm not saying the whole tour. But listen,
I think Sammy needs to shut the fuck up talking about David Lee Roth.
He does. I agree.
Just stop, right? Sammy's a legend, right? I'm a huge fan. So I'm saying this from a fan perspective, whether it's Montrose, obviously, with Van Hagar, and then his solo stuff. I mean, I was listening to Sammy before Van Hagar, but he keeps bringing up the past all the time. He wrote the book, read the book, quite kind of cutting in places, and he let Eddie Van Halen have it. And I think I read a couple of interviews where he said he regretted that, but nonetheless, he said his piece, and that's what a book should be. Just stop. Just play your music. Shut up. Get on with it. And what he said, okay, Eddie, Freudian slip, David, let's go out and play a couple of songs. And Dave said, I'm ready. And he said, no, I don't want you. So I said, well, why did you fucking say it in the first place?
Exactly.
That was just dumb for me. So just play your music, shut up and dribble, just get on with it.
Yeah, this isn't, like you just broke up. This wasn't early 2000s. It's like, look, man, it's 2023, 2024 now, I should say. Yep. I mean, yeah, it's time to just stop already. This is celebration of Van Halen. Let's be honest, mainly, what I mean? Obviously, it's Sammy's, his show. It's a lot of his songs, of course, but it's not just his songs. He's got David on there. So if you're going to play the guy's songs, man, you're going to celebrate him. Just let him be, man. Stop fucking with the guy. You know what I mean? I love both Van Halens too, man. I love both. Hagar and David Lee Roth. I think for the most part, most people do. You know, even some I think of those old people, you know, the people who didn't like Hagar, the Van Hagar stuff originally. I think when they go back now, you know, I think a lot of them are having like a second opinion now and going like, you know what, maybe this stuff is pretty good now that Eddie's gone. And say, you know, that's what happens, right? Sometimes when people, you know, pass away, people listen to certain things that have maybe a different perspective of it. And I think a lot of people who might have not been a huge Hagar fan are maybe starting to appreciate it a little bit more than they have in the past. One thing, though, I'm looking at the set list and I'm like, man, I don't know how they can't play Dreams, though. You know what I mean? I wish that was on. I hope they do play that. You know?
I don't think so? Can't sing it. I think there's a couple. No, honestly, I think he actually said it. I heard him on Trunk or Stern or whatever, and he was talking about there's a couple of songs that he decided just he's not going to do because he can't do them justice. So I think there's probably a couple of big hits there that he's, you know, Sammy is what, 74, I'm guessing. I don't know.
He's up there.
Like
yeah.
He's right up there. And no, he is missing a pitch. I mean, I'm not a singer, so, you know, I can throw stones like, you know, like not. But my point is that, like, you know, he's getting older and he cannot do what he used to do. He's fucking 74. Like, I mean, he's not in his 30s anymore singing those pitch songs. So there's probably a couple of tracks he's not going to play. And then, quite frankly, I don't want to hear him if he can't do him justice. I don't expect you to be Sammy of 35 again or whatever age you were when you sang those songs. But if you can't do it justice, leave it out. And I got my ticket. I think it's July or something. I'm going to have 2 hours of Sammy Hagar. I'm going to have a couple of beers, have a great night, walk home and go, fuck yeah. And I've never seen Sammy live. One of the very few artists I've never actually seen live. So this is a big deal for me because I'm a big fan. That's just a big fan of his music. Big fan of Sammy. Yeah,
I haven't seen him live either, so this is going to be the first time for myself. And I agree with you. You're right. It is true. That song, he sings very high. And like you said, 74 years old. I mean, it's impossible to do that. Yeah. And I respect him for that. I respect, you know, I respect his vocalists, especially, obviously, if they can't do it justice and if they're going to chop it up, they just don't do it at all. And so I agree with you. I think that's a good move. Nice, Sammy, with that in as well. But yeah, looking forward to that as well, man. Fantastic. All right. So yeah, I want to talk about here real quick is, you know, there's been some disappointing news to me in the world of metal. Sepultura, they're celebrating 40 years as a band. And they've announced their farewell tour. You know, it's a global tour, which means, and this came kind of out of nowhere, man. Like I didn't see this coming at all. There was no talk about them possibly,
nothing,
you know, being done. Now, the only thing I can think of is obviously, you know, guitarist Andreas. I know his wife recently passed, you know, so this might have had something to do with it. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, I get it, man. Look, they've been at it for so long, and you know how long. I mean, look, 40 years is 40 years. You know, I mean. Now, of course, this is now bringing up a lot of, you know, just like with Van Halen, now with Sepultura, it's a similar situation, right? You have, you know, a lot of people say, well, this isn't really Sepultura anyway, right? No Cavalera, no Sepultura, right? Now, I'll be honest with you, for a long time, that I was kind of like that, man. I wouldn't say I was kind of like that. I really was that. Sure. You know, when they, you know, when Max left, you know, their first record came out back in 98 or 99, I should say. I was not a fan of that record. And I even gave it a chance even recently again. I still don't like it. I think it's not a good record. But because of that, I never gave them really a chance at that. I just said, I saw them live when that happened. They were on the Tattoo of the Earth tour in 2000, and I saw them live. Right. And they were okay. But I was like, you know, man, without Max, to me at the time, I was like, they're just not the same. So for years, I just never really paid too much attention to them. You know, I only recently did around 2020 when they put out their last record, Quadra. I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a good listen. And man, what a great record that was. And not only that, I love that record so much that I was like, you know, I knew some people that were like, dude, you're crazy. You got to go back. You know, Chris Aiken being one of them. You got to check out the other albums. And I said, you know, I'm gonna. And I did. And holy shit, man, I feel like such an idiot for, you know, really just you know, dismissing them all these years, because some of those albums are just phenomenal. You know, I mean, the last 4 or 5 records they put out really are fucking great. And I gave it such a new, I just had a new mindset towards it. And I'm a huge fan. And I saw them about almost 2 years ago, right after, you know, when live music started coming back out. I had tickets to see them with Sacred Reich and Crowbar. Sure. They still did that tour a few years after the pandemic. And man, they were phenomenal. And I was just like, all right, I'm this now huge fan of Derek Green and Sepultura. Yeah. And now I'm just really disappointed that it's going to be gone. But we'll get one more tour. But it is disappointing, man. So what's your what's your comments on this?
A couple of things about what you said. I think it's right. It literally came out of nowhere because I saw Sepultura play this year. They played with Creator. I think I saw them May or something like that, whatever it was.
Okay.
And it was, I can't remember, it was a double headline tour or whatever it was. But anyway, the gig was phenomenal. I remember the lasers were just unbelievable and they were on fire. And I was looking back on a couple of interviews, like obviously do some research for the show today. You know, going back a few years ago, not even 2 years ago, and they were talking about how much they're looking forward to keeping going. There was no sign of retirement. So something has happened in the last year, perhaps. I mean, because they were on fire, you know, going back, you know, just a couple of months ago. I saw them and I just said, holy shit balls, Creator and Sepultura in one evening. Like I was just, you know, my ears were ringing for days. But something happened the last couple of days, last year, and we don't know what it is. It could be personal. Maybe they're going different ways. Derek Green is doing something else. Who knows? But I had the pleasure of seeing Sepultura 3 times. I saw them in Dublin. I think it was on the Chaos ID tour. I think we spoke about that. 89, 90. Can't remember the exact date. I have the ticket stuff upstairs. I saw them in Donington in 1996, right? Nice. 1996. And I actually have if I can find it, but I wrote down. I think it was Kiss, it was Biohazard, it was Dog Eat Dog, Paradise Lost, Fear Factory, whatever it was, all together. Wow, but great. Max Cavalera was with them, but he didn't sing because his son, I think, either got sick or was in an accident. If somebody could look back in the timeline,
really?
So he didn't actually sing. He did not sing live.
Oh, interesting.
So I was going, God damn it! Like I was in Donington with 80,000 people and all the Sepultura fans and all the Brazilian soccer T-shirts on, and we're all kind of. And they announced this from the stage, so. You know, obviously I saw them just a couple of months ago, but you know, the great band, their last album, Quadra, exactly, is super strong release. You know, they got the energy live, and they're different. That's the thing about Sepultura. They've got something different to add. They go across like different facets of the metal genre. So it was a big surprise for me when I saw like we're done. I was going, wow, holy shit balls. And I'd like to think they're a band with integrity that when they say they're done, they're not going to do a Kiss or a Judas Priest or whoever and just keep on doing this shit for years. But you know, hats off to Sepultura. They made their mark, and you don't really hear, you know, that genre of music coming from South America, like with this kind of this breath. I mean, I want to see them in Dublin, Donington, and they were a big band in Europe back in the day too, no question.
Yeah. I mean, also too, you know, the one thing about them is I'm sure they're going to do some shows still in Brazil, but you know, I mean, they are sort of like the, you know, Metallica of Brazil. I mean, they're, you know, I remember years ago, you know, I had a coworker who was from Brazil, man. I talked to him years ago in their prime, and even though he wasn't a huge metal fan, he was like, oh yeah, man, Sepultura. I mean, you know, everyone loves them there. They're you know, they're like, you know, they're up there, obviously with the legends, you know, in that country. And you know, like I said, Andreas, you know, he's such a great guitarist too. You know, I think it was one of those things when Max left and he went to Soulfly, I think you could kind of see, I hate to say it, I mean, this is the KSAD and you listen to those riffs, that's Andreas. You know what I mean? That's not Max.
Monster riffs.
That's him. Right. You know, and he carried that style over, you know, throughout the years. He continued that. So like I said, for all the people who are no Cavalera, no Sepultura. Sorry, no, that's wrong.
Yeah, fuck that.
Fuck that is right. Yeah, and this is, you know, disappointing news, but I'm hoping we get to see it one more time when they come to the States, which they should be. And so, you know, I will, you know, we will get to celebrate it one more time. Now, just quickly, I just want to bring one other thing up, you know, because, you know, here it is, a farewell tour. We're seeing all these farewell tours going on. Not just with the legend, you know, the legacy bands like Kiss and so forth. You said with Sepultura. Now, this other one I'm going to bring up looks like this is probably going to be possibly, you know, the last, I think, tour for these two bands themselves as well. Which again, you know, it's just I hate seeing this last, you know, these last shows and tours and stuff. But this is going to be another great tour I can't wait from. We got VOIVOD and PRONG. You know what I mean? Now we're talking some, you know, VOIVOD, of course, everyone knows, you know, the progressive thrash band, you know, from Canada, from Montreal, that were, you know, part of that sort of second or third wave of thrash that was going on there in the late 80s into the 90s. PRONG, of course, groove metal kings, along with bands like Sepultura and Pantera, who really carried metal in the 90s when metal was sort of not in its best place. This is supposedly going to be I believe, the end of the road, possibly for Prong as well, because just some things that I've been hearing and seeing, this might be it. You know, Tommy Victor, who leads Prong, he's got like 2 infants. The guy's like 60 years old. He's got 2 kids that are like 2 and like 6 months. Yeah. So I mean, so this is probably it for him. I would kind of think he might maybe do one other record after this, but they just put out a great record in October, State of Emergency. One of their best records they put out in years. It really goes back to their old school 90s sound. And VOIVOD, you know, I've never seen VOIVOD, so I'm really excited to see this. As you see, this is a tour here in the U.S., North America, I should say. If they're playing in your town, if you don't know much about both of these bands, check them out, because they're both a little off the beaten path than your traditional thrash metal bands. Both of them always did a little bit, you know, had a little progressiveness into them and just did things a little different, a little alternative, if you want to call it. I hate that term alternative, but they just did something different. You know what I mean? And so I'm excited to see this, but this could be it, the end of the road for these 2 legendary bands as well. VOIVOD, obviously, they're legends in Canada. Everyone loves them there. They're one of the thrash, the legends in that country. So, yeah, I don't know. Are you into VOIVOD or Prong at all, Tom? I
mean, obviously, I know there's not a metal band alive. I don't know who they are, so I'm not going to claim to be an uber fan. And that's the one thing I like to do on this show, is just give you like an honest opinion. If I don't know something or I don't know their discography, I'll let you know, obviously. But you know, I mean, these are 2 bands that they're 2 legacy bands with 30, 40 years history, probably going back to mid 80s, I'm guessing, particularly for VOIVOD. And their recent releases, I know VOIVOD had an album released, I think it was this year, like a rehash of like a deep cuts and whatever, and that was actually pretty good. But you know, 2 older bands still releasing music in 22, 23 and doing a farewell. But I'm actually surprised by the tour dates, because it only goes on from February to March from what I can see. So I'm guessing this is probably leg 1 of you know, multiple legs throughout the US. They're not playing Charlotte there, I can see, but you know, if it was a farewell tour, then, you know, downtown Charlotte, uptown Charlotte is like 30 minutes for me. I would 100% go and see that. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And VOIVOD, as I don't know if people really know, but, you know, Metallica, the bassist Jason Newsted.
Jason Newsted, yeah.
He was in VOIVOD for some time, obviously. So they, like I said, a different band, really different from a lot of those thrash metal bands back in the 80s, but a great band nonetheless, man. This is on the great tour. So if they're playing right there, if you're in one of those cities, you know, I would suggest everyone go check them out. Absolutely. All right. So let's, Tom, let's get to now. We'll talk to our track. Get to our tracks as we talk about. We want to play one track from, you know, like I said, an obscure band, a new band, and an older band you just discovered and so forth, or just a track from a legendary artist that is pretty damn solid, which is, I know, a track that you picked out. Talk about your track for the show.
Okay, so the track of the week, basically, mostly if you hear track of the week, and we kind of stole this and focus on metal, sorry, Scott, but, you know, really what it is that it's not track of the week that came out this week or, you know, the last 2 weeks. This is a track that could be new, something that maybe I just discovered late in life, or something I'm just going back on. Sometimes you put, you know, you put your iPod or your phone on shuffle and you go, fuck, I forgot about that. And we can bring this back up. So it doesn't have to be new, because that keeps us to new tracks only. But in saying that, my song is totally new with all that bullshit, but it's not from a new artist, Bruce Dickinson's new track. And I think this song is tremendous. Obviously, Tyranny of Soul has gone back a couple of years ago right now. You know, Roy Z is involved again, but this song just kicks ass. It is heavy as fuck. This is what he couldn't do in Maiden, and I think he's got this absolutely perfect. Yeah, I mean, this is a great track called Afterglow of Ragnarok. I think so too. You know, one thing that's great about Bruce Dickinson, you know, when I was listening to this track, that I thought, for one, I mean, if you see Iron Maiden live, obviously this guy can still do it. I mean, as good as anybody. I mean, at his age, and he's still just running around. Like, I mean, I don't know how he does it, man. I don't know how he does it. I really don't, man. He's just always been not just a phenomenal voice, but just quite the showman on top of it. You know what I mean? He's got more energy than I think any of us combined at his age. It's unbelievable what he can do. But yeah, I mean, one thing I was listening to, you know, to the track, I was listening to it. One thing that stuck out to me was, you know, if you think of all these classic metal singers, whether it's Halford and all them, you know, one thing I always loved about Dickinson, and I love vocalists that can do this, is, you know, they don't just sit there and, you know, get into, you know, he won't just go falsetto just to show off and just to jerk himself off. You know what I mean? It's like,
he'll use it when it's called for, you know. And I love in this track what's great because, you know, this isn't obviously Iron Maiden, right? You know, musically, you know, so you don't have a lot of the, you know, Iron Maiden always plays clean. You know what I mean? They play standard tuning and clean.
Sure.
They don't drop, you know, tune or nothing. And so, but I hear, you know, Bruce Dickinson with a little bit of a drop tune, you know, whether it's E or C or whatever it is, what she does on this, you know, I like it because, like, you know, it's sort of like almost like a doomy type of, you know, song. It's a little bit slower. It's not your typical upbeat galloping Iron Maiden stuff.
Nope.
And it still sounds so great, you know. So it's like I love hearing his voice over other music besides just Iron Maiden's music. You know what I mean? And that's the greatest thing I think about his solo stuff, especially on this track, is he could just do so many different things, and he can do it to so many different styles of rock and metal. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the video. I don't think anybody can understand what the video is about, but it's very him because, you know, Bruce is very eclectic and he has a different style, and he's, you know, he's written many books, many solo albums. We know he's a fencer and he's an airline pilot, whatever. So he's just he's not your average metal rock singer like a Rob Halford. But I just think the song is awesome. But even some of the musicians, and I was just looking this up actually, like Dave Marino, who played on Tyranny of Souls, so he's bringing him over. There's an Italian keyboard player, I gotta look this up, called Mysteria. No, never heard of him, I gotta be honest. But he's a classical, also a hard rock element. But here's the good news. Tanya O'Callaghan is his bass player. And Tanya O'Callaghan is Irish. O'Callaghan, go figure.
Obviously.
But she was actually she was touring with Whitesnake. I know David Coverdale and co were actually touring Europe and had to cut it short because everybody got COVID, allegedly. But she was actually the touring bassist for David Coverdale. And she's married or dating Derek Green from Sepultura, so going back full circle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there you go. So she's actually playing with him. So look her up, everybody, Tanya O'Callaghan, and jump onto her website because there's a lot of testimonials on her website. And you've got all these stellar musicians talking about how good she is as a bass player. And I actually connected with her on Instagram, and I just sent her a note. So she could be a future guest. I think she's got a couple of stories in there.
That would be, hey man, look at you. See, this is why we got Tom on Aftershocks. Look at it. Look at this information. This is journalism, people. This is what it's all about. I love it, Tom. Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. You know, she is a great bassist, and I didn't know though that she was on this record or playing with us. So that's fantastic.
Full disclosure, I wasn't aware until a couple of weeks ago because I do take notice of you know, Bruce's solo stuff. I do like it. You know, his last couple of releases have been solid. But yeah, and she's, I mean, you've watched a couple of videos with her, and David Coverdale speaks glowingly of her. And she's just a mover and a shaker. She looks awesome. She got a style. You know, she doesn't pick. She plays with her fingers, so she brings a kind of an extra kind of deep groove to it. But if Bruce Dickinson is coming through town in that solo band, I am not missing that. And if I get connected with Tanya and play the Irish card and wave the flag, you never know, dude. I might get a backstage.
You just might, Tom. Hey, just give her a little bit of water for Crystal, man. I'm sure you'll be right back there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I've got it right here.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, so I'm gonna talk about my track of the week now. This comes from a band. You know, I don't know how, you know, people. I'm a big fan of this band. They just released their 6th LP this year in October called Stone. And it's a band BARONESS, and the track is called Beneath the Roast. Now, BARONESS, I don't know if a lot of people know, they were actually, you know, this is a band that's been Grammy nominated too. They were nominated for Grammy back in 2015 for their song Shock Me. An interesting story too about BARONESS. I'm going to bring up just the album cover too. This is the album called Stone. So the guitarist singer, John Baisley, he's also, you've probably seen album covers like this. There's a lot of metal bands that have this sort of artistry on their album covers, and he's the guy that does all this. He's not just a great musician, but he's also
looks like a Mastodon cover or something, doesn't it? It has that.
It's a lot. Well, they're from Georgia. They're from Savannah, and so there was this big scene that came out around the mid to late 2000s out of Savannah, bands, which kind of, you know, I guess they kind of stemmed off of Mastodon, if you want to call that, because a lot of them are progressive, sort of like, you know, BARONESS, who do definitely have a Mastodonish type of sound. They're that progressive metal type of sound. But yeah, he does a lot of bands. Like I said, all those bands down in Georgia, he was doing all those bands. He's done a lot of European bands. Cavalera out of Norway. I know he did a bunch of their albums.
Yeah,
Bunch of bands. He does album covers. So if you see this, ever see this sort of artistry, that's him. You know, and Baroness, you know, was a band that, you know, is interesting because right as they were peaking around 2012, they were really starting to really take off. And like I said, right after that, they did get nominated for a Grammy, but they were involved in a just major bus accident in England, where literally the bus they were on fell 30 feet off a bridge.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I don't know if you remember that story. Yeah, and so
story, I do.
Yeah, and so these guys were almost. Most of the band all left after that. I mean, they just, I guess, they suffered some really serious, you know, back issues and so forth, so they couldn't play anymore. But he lucked out. I think he broke a few, you know, obviously bones, and he was hurt for a while himself, but he regrouped. And this is, to me, their strongest record, I think, to me, to date. They did some different things on here vocally and everything. So, like I said, very proggy metal band. If you're into that, this is something you should definitely check out. And like I said, the song's called Beneath the Rose. I think an album that just hasn't really, it just haven't got talked about too much this year. And we see that with a lot of great bands, man, because there's so much music out there. It just comes out, right? 5 minutes later, it's done. And this is, to me, one of those albums that just wasn't talked about much. So I want to go ahead and play the song here. I'm going to play the video for Beneath the Rose. So we're going to start things off, though, with Bruce Dickinson, his new song right here on Aftershocks. Check it out.